Have you ever built something so slowly and painfully, only to feel it shake in a single moment? Like all those years holding it together meant nothing. The second someone said the wrong thing, or maybe the right thing, at the wrong time. If that's ever happened to you, keep listening and tell me in the comments if you've ever felt it. The sudden crack in what you thought was solid, because I didn't see it coming. Not from him, not from my own son. I was proud of the life I'd built. Not because it was glamorous or easy, but because we survived it. Me and Chase. Just us. His dad left before Chase could even talk, walked out with a backpack and an attitude, and never looked back. I remember holding my son in one arm, a bag of groceries in the other, and thinking, okay, it's just us now. We didn't have much. A second-hand couch, a 2-bedroom rental, with a leaky kitchen light. But we had each other. And over the years, that bond turned into something that felt almost unbreakable. Chase grew up fast. He had to. I worked double shifts, cleaning offices by day, waiting tables at night. He'd do his homework on the booth at the back of the diner, where I worked. Customers used to tip him in quarters and leftover pie. We didn't do vacations. We didn't have birthday parties with bounce houses, but we had our own kind of rhythm. Inside jokes, quiet dinner, movie nights that turned into life talks. People always said he's such a good kid, and he was. He is. Even when he stayed home after high school to save money and go to community college, I didn't mind. I liked having him there. It felt safe, familiar, comfortable, but that comfort, it made me blind to something. I was leaning on him in ways I didn't realize. Have you ever got so used to doing life with someone that you stop asking if the way you're doing it still makes sense? I didn't date. Not serious. After what his father did, I told myself I was done handing over pieces of myself just to get left behind again. But lately, I'd catch myself looking out the kitchen window, dish in hand, and wondering if this was all there was. If maybe I'd let part of myself shut down. And when Chase would come home, smile that familiar smile, say, "Hey, May," like he always did, something in me would both light up and ache. That's the part I didn't want to admit. Not to him, not even to myself. Have you ever been so emotionally close to someone that the lines started to blur without you realizing it? Tell me in the comments. I'm not the only one, right? So here's where things started to feel different. Chase came home one Friday with this grin on his face, said he found a used hot tub online. Barely used, May, I swear, and that he and his friend could haul it into the backyard for almost nothing. I rolled my eyes, laughed, called him ridiculous, but the next thing I knew, it was bubbling on the deck outside our sliding glass door. "It's for both of us," he said, proud. "You never do anything for yourself." That part hit me, because it was true. I hadn't bought myself a single thing that wasn't practical in years. No spa days, no new shoes, unless the old ones had holes. I hadn't been in a swimsuit in over a decade, but that night, I sat in the hot tub. I stood at the patio door for way too long before stepping out. Chase was already in, eyes closed, head tipped back. He looked peaceful, grown, not like my boy, like a man I didn't quite recognize. I lowered myself into the water, the heat hugging every sore part of me I'd ignored all week. And for the first time in forever, I didn't feel like someone's mom or someone's employee, just someone. We talked, easy at first, about the usual stuff, his classes, the neighbor's dog digging up our garden, a weird dream I'd had the night before. But there was a lull, a soft pause, and then he said it. "You always look tired, May, like bone-deep tired." I froze. It wasn't what he said. It was how he said it, like he saw it, like he'd been carrying that thought around for a while and just now found the words. I laughed it off. "Well, raising you wasn't exactly a spa vacation." He smiled, but didn't laugh. Just looked at me. "Yeah, but you didn't deserve to do it alone." That's when it hit me. He wasn't just being sweet. He wasn't being a kid. He was being the only one who'd said that, ever. And that felt bigger than I knew how to hold in that moment. I moved over to where the jets were stronger, closer to him. There wasn't much space. It's a hot tub after all, and my knee brushed his. He didn't flinch, neither did I. But my brain clocked it, that little electric jolt when you suddenly become aware of closeness. The next few minutes were quiet, not awkward, just heavy. The air between us felt warmer than the water, if that makes sense. I looked at him, and for the first time, I saw not my son, not my child, but someone who'd grown up alongside me, someone who had held space for me, quietly, for years, someone who didn't just know my pain, he had been shaped by it too. That shared history, it wasn't just mother-son anymore, it was trauma deep, survival deep. And sometimes, when you survive with someone, you forget who you're supposed to be to them. He opened his eyes and looked right at me. "Thanks for doing this," I said. "Just to say something." He nodded. "You needed it. It should have ended there. I should have stood up, grabbed a towel, gone inside. But I didn't, because I liked feeling seen. I liked the warmth. And I hadn't liked anything in a very long time." After a while, I said, "Do you remember when I used to read to you in the tub?" He laughed. "Yeah, you made all the voices. I miss that." "Yeah," he said, softer now. "Me too." The silence that followed was full of old echoes. Years of late nights, laughter, crying behind closed doors so the other wouldn't hear, inside jokes built from broken pieces. Then I shifted my weight and sat back against the other side, but not before brushing his leg again. This time, he looked at me, just a glance, just long enough for my stomach to twist, not because anything was said, but because something was felt, and I hated myself for feeling it. That night, after we'd dried off and gone inside, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, my heart still warm and unsettled from the hot tub. I replayed every word, every glance. Was I reading too much into it, making it weird? Did he notice the shift too, or was it just me? And worse, was I lonely enough to imagine it? Have you ever had a moment with someone, a family member, a friend, where things suddenly felt off, like a line you didn't even know was there just got smudged? You ever feel like a moment changed something, but no one talked about it, so you had to just keep pretending? That was me, for the next few days. After the hot tub night, I told myself I was imagining things, that Chase was just being sweet, that I was just tired, emotional, overthinking it. But the truth, things had shifted, and I wasn't the only one who felt it. The next morning, at breakfast, I made pancakes like I always did on Saturday. Chase came into the kitchen, hair a mess, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Same as always, but the second he smiled at me and said, "Morning, May," I felt my heart catch. Not in a romantic way, don't get it twisted. It was something harder to explain, like my body had connected the dots my brain didn't want to. That warmth I'd felt in the hot tub, it lingered. And that scared me. He grabbed his plate and sat at the counter. We talked about nothing, really, but the way he looked at me, like he was waiting for something. I noticed, he noticed me. Over the next week, it became a quiet rhythm. We'd bump into each other in the hallway. Our hands would brush while reaching for the same bowl. I'd catch him watching me while I folded laundry or stared out the window too long. Still no one said anything, and that silence made it louder. One night, I walked into the living room and found him stretched out on the couch. He patted the seat next to him without looking up from his phone. "Come sit," he said. "Let's watch something stupid." So I did. We ended up watching reruns of a reality show we used to laugh at when he was younger. At one point, someone on screen made a ridiculous comment, and we both cracked up at the same time. Our shoulders bumped. His arm stayed close. He turned toward me and said, "You always laugh hardest at the dumbest stuff." I smiled. "And you still sit through it." "Yeah. Well," he said, eyes flicking toward me, "someone's gotta put up with you." It was nothing. And it was everything. Later that night, I was in the laundry room folding towels when he came in behind me. I jumped a little. He startled me. "Sorry," he said, "just grabbing a hoodie." But he didn't leave right away. He leaned against the doorframe, watching me fold. "You know you still do the corners like Grandma used to," he said. "I guess old habits die hard." Then he said it just casual, out of nowhere. "You know, sometimes I think I got more of you in me than Dad." I paused. "That's not a bad thing." He nodded. "No, it's not." And then he added, "I think we understand each other more than most people do." I didn't know what to say, because part of me felt proud, and part of me felt like I was standing too close to something sharp. That night, in bed, I replayed the way he looked at me. Not like a child looks at a parent, not like a boy, like someone who saw me, the parts no one sees. And I hated how much I needed that. I hated that it made me feel alive. But there's a danger in feeling seen when you've been invisible too long, because you start to reach for it, even when you know better. The next day, I walked into the kitchen, and he was already there, shirtless, cooking eggs, music playing low on the Bluetooth speaker. Something about the scene made me pause, not because it was inappropriate, but because it felt domestic, intimate, like something I hadn't experienced in years. He looked up and grinned. "Your headlights are on." I blinked. "What?" He pointed to my chest and laughed. "Just saying." I rolled my eyes. "That's charming." "Hey, not my fault it's cold in here," he said, smirking, turning back to the stove. Was he joking? Was it harmless? Probably, but it hit me like a splash of cold water. That was the first moment I knew we were on a level, not because either of us meant to cross a line, but because we were dancing too close to it, thinking we wouldn't fall. And still I stayed in that kitchen. I stood there, sipping coffee I didn't want, pretending things weren't getting complicated, pretending I didn't like the attention, pretending that something in me hadn't already cracked wide open. Have you ever gotten too emotionally close to someone, and only realized it when a joke or glance suddenly made you uncomfortable? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear if I'm alone in this, or if maybe this happens more than we talk about. There's a moment, maybe you've felt this too, when everything feels like it's speeding up and slowing down at the same time. You see what's coming, but your body's already in. You're hoping you're wrong, even as you keep inching closer. That's what happened the night we sat in the sauna. Yeah, the sauna. Another one of Chase's spontaneous house upgrades. A friend was getting rid of an old infrared unit, and Chase talked him into giving it to us for He set it up in the garage next to the weights, and a beat-up mini fridge we barely used. "Try it with me," he said that night. "It'll help your back." And honestly, my back hurt. Years of bending over laundry baskets and scrubbing tile floors don't disappear just because your kid turns 20. So I grabbed a towel, rolled my eyes, and went along. We sat across from each other. Soft, red light, quiet hum. That kind of heat that sinks into your bone. I leaned back against the wood and exhaled like I hadn't breathed in years. We didn't talk at first. The silence between us wasn't awkward. It never was. But it was charged, heavy with all the things we weren't saying. And then he said, "You ever think it's weird how close we..." I opened my eyes, slowly, looked at him. "What do you mean?" "I mean, we talk like friends. We hang out more than most moms and sons do. Sometimes I forget I'm your kid." I didn't answer right away, because it's the same. I wiped sweat from my forehead and stared at the floor. Every part of me wanted to rewind the moment, but I didn't move. I didn't leave. "You're not just my kid," I said finally. "You're the one person who's always been there." He nodded, like he'd been waiting for me to say that. "I think sometimes," he said, "people would be shocked at how much we carry together." I smiled weakly. "Yeah, we don't talk about that part." Then he leaned forward a little, elbows on knees. "I don't think it's bad though. I think it just..." And here's the thing. I didn't disagree. I didn't feel creeped out or gross or anything people might assume. I felt seen, known. And that's what scared me, because when you're starved for connection, even innocent moments can feel electric. We walked back into the house without talking. My towel clung to my shoulders, his hair dripping from the heat. I poured 2 glasses of water and slid one across the counter. Then I said it. "We need to talk." He leaned against the fridge. I figured. I took a deep breath. "I think we're starting to lean on each other in ways that aren't fair." "To who?" he asked. No one else is here. To ourselves. He didn't answer, just looked down at the glass, jaw tight. I kept going. I'm your mom, and you're not my therapist, or my husband, or my person. He finally looked up. But I want to be your person. That sentence hit me in the center of my chest, not because it was wrong, but because I had wanted that too. I just didn't want it to come from him. I know you do, and that's why we have to be really, really careful right now. He nodded. So what? We stop talking? Avoid each other? No, I said. We draw a line. We don't talk to fill space. We talk to stay connected without confusing it for something else. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, so no more sauna talks. I smiled, half-hearted. Not with just us, not when it's late, not when we're feeling too much. He nodded, eyes glistening a little. Okay, he said. Boundaries. I raised my glass. To boundaries. He tapped his against mine, but we both knew. We were already too far in to pretend we could go back to what we were. Later that night, we ended up on opposite sides of the couch. A rerun played in the background, but neither of us was watching. I was folding laundry just to keep my hands busy. At one point he spoke, "What the hell are we doing?" I looked at him, and I said, "I think we're learning how to be two whole people again, not just halves trying to hold each other up." He didn't say anything back, but he stayed there, close, quiet, and that was enough for now. Have you ever had to draw a line with someone you care about, just to protect both of you from going somewhere you shouldn't? Drop a comment if you've ever been in a situation where emotional closeness got confusing. And if this story speaks to something in you, hit like, subscribe, and stick around. It happened 3 days later on the couch. Same couch we'd sat on for movie nights, sick days and birthday dinners with paper plates and candles that dripped into frosting. But that night, that couch might as well have been a battlefield. I was folding laundry again. Always laundry, right? The most ordinary thing in the world. My armor. Chase was next to me scrolling on his phone. The air between us felt different. Not tense exactly, just quiet, like we were both trying not to wake something sleeping inside us. And then he said, real low, like he wasn't sure he wanted me to hear it, "I miss how we used to talk." I kept folding. "Yeah, me too." He sighed, put the phone down. "Feels like I did something wrong." I stopped, held the towel in my hands a second longer than I needed to, then turned to face him. "You didn't do anything wrong," I said. "We just let things get messy." He shook his head. "But we didn't even do anything." "No," I said. "But we felt something. And sometimes that's worse." He looked at me, really looked at me. Not like a boy, not like a man trying to fix me, just like someone who'd lost the same thing I had, safety. And that's when I knew. It wasn't about seduction. It wasn't about attraction. It was about something way deep. We had become each other's emotional crutch. When you don't trust anyone else, when you've been abandoned, cheated on and let down enough, you start building your world with whatever's left. And for us, that world was each other. But you can't build your foundation on someone who's still figuring out their own. "I think I leaned on you too much," I said. "I let you," he replied. And that right there, that was the moment. The line in the sand, drawn not in shame, but in truth, because we both wanted to feel important to someone, needed, seen. But that kind of closeness, if you don't name it, starts to wrap around your ribs and squeeze. So I stood up, finally put the laundry down, walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water and stared out the window like I always do when I'm trying not to fall apart. And I told myself something out loud for the first time. You are allowed to want love. You are just not allowed to take it from the wrong place. And that felt like a punch to the gut. But it also felt like standing up straight after years of hunching to survive. I didn't move out. He didn't. We still live under the same roof for now. But everything's changed. We have space now. We don't fill silence with long looks or loaded conversations. We talk when it matters. We don't blur the lines. And I've started therapy finally. Because here's the truth. You can't heal from being abandoned by trying to overbond with someone who feels safe. You can't replace your worth with someone else's attention, even if it feels comforting. And most of all, you cannot be whole if you're surviving through someone else's presence. That night on the couch, I lost something, but I gained something too. a kind of clarity, a line drawn in permanent ink, not sand. I didn't burn my life down. I didn't spiral into shame. I woke up, I claimed myself back, and I'm done apologizing for needing love. I just know now, I need it from places that don't cost me my boundary. Have you ever found yourself emotionally tangled up in someone you weren't supposed to lean on like that? It's okay. You're not alone. Let's talk about it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Someone out there needs to hear your story too. Like this story hit you somewhere deep. Hit that like button. Know someone who needs this kind of clarity. Share it. Want more raw, honest stories like this? Subscribe. We're not done unpacking what love, loss, and loyalty really look like. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from what almost was. There was no affair, no secret kiss, but there was a moment I will always remember, not because it went too far, but because it almost did.